A NHL Insider revealed a major Vancouver Canucks trade update after this management group made multiple pending UFAs available for trade heading into this year's trade deadline. We get a huge update coming that a fan favorite player has been inquired about by multiple teams as this management group is prioritizing the draft heading into next season. But not only that, we're going to dive into a hidden gem within this Canucks system that was just named to an Olympic roster. There's so much to break down, including 2 trade reports around 2 specific players and an update on this player. Now, before we get into these 2 trade updates surrounding these Canucks players, let's dive into a prospect that was just named to an Olympic roster and is looking like a hidden gem. Now, with the Canucks, we've had multiple guys named to the Olympics, but one that came out of surprise is Ravinskis. Now, Ravinskis is the name that a lot of fans may not know, an undrafted player that was signed with the Abbotsford Canucks going into his first professional season on North American ice. We do see with Ravinskis coming through, he had multiple seasons overseas. He played 2 seasons in the queue, but the big thing with Ravinskis, still only 23 years old, 17 points in 27 games for the Liga just last year. It's nice to see the Canucks are, of course, getting their big names named to the Olympic, but a guy like Ravinskis, someone that was picked up for absolutely nothing after impressing a couple teams in tryouts, is a breath of fresh air that the Canucks are at least looking like they'll hit on a couple prospects that didn't even come after the draft after they suffered, of course, not having much draft capital over the past 2 seasons. Now with Ravinskis, he did come in on a 2-year deal, $872,500, an RFA at the end of this. It's going to be nice to see Ravinskis not only progress in Abbotsford. Yes, he scored his first goal on North American ice in 22 games, up to 2 goals on this season. He had some time in the World Juniors, but fans, someone that's watched a lot of Abbotsford games, what is your thoughts on Ravinskis? Do you think the ceiling is there for the undrafted kid? Is there untapped potential between him? Because the big thing is an Olympic roster naming this kid to it is awesome to see. He's heading to Latvia to represent his country, and the Canucks are going to have a lot of people to watch during the Olympics, and I'm going to cover it all here for you guys during that as well. But the big thing with the Canucks, and we're going to dive straight into this trade talk now, where we know there's multiple players that are getting called upon within this team. Teddy Blueger, a pending UFA, Evander Kane reportedly has no value, but there's a lot of guys that the Canucks are going to get some good draft capital for. Of course, being at the very top is Kieffer Sherwood, who we will touch on shortly, but one name that came at a surprise today when Chris Johnson was talking on the Chris Johnson Show was Conor Garland. Now, Chris Johnson goes in to say, I think they're finally settling in on the rebuild. There is a trade discussions around their veterans, but I think they have expanded. Someone like Conor Garland, who just signed an extension last summer, I'm hearing his name out there a fair bit. Now, this is fair because Conor Garland is a very good player. We've seen him kick the stick just last night versus the Montreal Canadiens, but the big thing with Conor Garland is a very big piece within this organization. We've seen him, how he's worked, how he's been since joining this team. And another thing to look at is that 6-year extension that, of course, kicks in on July 1st. Now, $6 million is a very fair and a steal of a contract. We're going to see the cap roll continuing to jump up 10 and 10 and 10 million after every season. But with Conor Garland, it's going to get interesting. The Canucks have to prioritize this draft. We've seen Patrik Allvin himself say, Chris Johnson spoke on it. This draft is what the Canucks are fully focused on. Of course, getting draft capital is the biggest thing with that. But with Conor Garland, in my opinion, this feels like a weird move and a lateral move. Yes, you can strip it down to the studs. The management group, and especially the ownership, is not going to let that happen. But looking at Conor Garland, since joining the Canucks, he has done nothing but been a consistent and productive player within this team. A lot of fans are saying, give him the C. Conor Garland is a big part of this organization. On the ice, off the ice, how he's going to help develop a lot of young players that are hopefully going to be put in this roster very soon. I mean, if Adam Foote's at the helm, maybe not, because guys like Aatu Räty, Z Boylan was scratched in their last game, which made no sense. Listen, Joseph is from Montreal, so maybe it was his return game. But at the end of the day, Conor Garland is a very interesting name. Now, if you're moving on from Conor Garland, you're going to get a hell of a draft capital coming back the other way. Right now, the Canucks basically have 3 first-round picks. Now, a lot of people might look and say, Mark, it's only 2 picks. We have ours, and the Minnesota Wild. But the big thing is the Ottawa Senators have to forfeit their pick after that weird trade between Dadonov. But the big thing is with them forfeiting a pick, if the Canucks land the first overall pick, and the Ottawa Senators can fall anywhere in the draft at that point, but if they land the first overall pick, they will get the 33rd pick which is the start of the second round, which means the forfeited pick basically slides you into the first. But at the end of the day, the Canucks need to add more draft capital is what I'm trying to say. We know they have 2 firsts, they have a second, no fourth or no third, they have a fourth, a fifth, a sixth. This is a team that we want to add another first round pick, hopefully a second, maybe a third. They need to go into this draft with as much capital as humanly possible, as it seems like this management group, yes, wants to rebuild. They want to trade their pending guys, but I feel like, and we know how this management group has worked in the past, how the ownership, of course, views this team. I don't think a rebuild's going to take 2, 3, 4 years. I feel like they're going to try to speed it up. So this is the season to get the capital, and it goes farther into the reports. And speaking on capital, I know they have the received offers of a second round pick and a pretty good prospect for Kieffer Sherwood and didn't take it. I love that the Canucks are looking at this and saying, hey, we have our set price on Kieffer Sherwood. We want this. If you're not offering it, hang up the phone, call back tomorrow, and try to come in with a new one. Because if the Canucks get a second for Kieffer Sherwood and a good prospect, yes, that's a win. You had a 2-year window with Kieffer Sherwood. It didn't work out. You trade him before his next big contract. But at the end of the day, if you can line a first-round pick for a player like this, it puts you in a perfect position moving forward. This is a player that every team is calling on. Chris Johnson spoke during his report and named multiple teams, from the Dallas Stars, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Toronto Maple Leafs. He went in on multiple teams saying there's so much interest on Kieffer Sherwood floating around the league right now, and he goes even farther to say there's a possibility that Sherwood has played his last game as a Canuck. Now, this hurts to see. With the Canucks, we want to see all our top players. I have a plan to fly out to Vancouver in March. It's going to be after trade deadline, so I'm going to miss out on a lot of guys I expected to see this season. Quinn Hughes, Kieffer Sherwood, Teddy Bluger. There's going to be so many names that are going to be shipped off, but on the brighter side of things, it's going to suck for a couple of seasons. We're going to be a bad team. We're a bad team right now. We're last in the NHL, but in the big scheme and the bigger picture of things, the Canucks are finally looking like they at least will be trending in a certain direction, going after draft capital, getting this young talent within the roster. Hopefully Manny Malhotra is named a captain, but at the end of the day, there's going to be circulations on a lot of the players. We're seeing the Conor Garland reports coming through. We know the extension kicks in. Where does he fit within this lineup in the future? If you're adding young talent to this team, if you want to get Jonathan Leckamack as a full-time forward within the NHL, if you want to get your first overall pick, if you get an Ivor Stenberg or Gavin McKenna, a lot of guys immediately made the jump. Michael Misa is a full-time NHLer with the San Jose Sharks. Matthew Schaefer is a full-timer. Ben Kindle, who was drafted 10th, 11th, 12th, one of those picks, is a full-timer in the NHL as well. If the Canucks are injecting younger players to their team, you're going to have to move guys out, and it's going to get interesting on who's being moved. But what's your guys' thoughts on this? Go ahead and leave your comment down below. And speaking on comments, let's go straight into comments of the day. Why are they scratching Boeser and letting Joseph play? And I think it was because it was in Montreal. Joseph is from Montreal. But at the end of the day, this is stupid. We've seen this management group. We've seen Jim Rutherford say, we want to get the young talent in this roster and play in games. And the fact that Adam Foote is scratching guys like Boeser or guys like Atu Ratu, Jonathan Leckamack, who was hurt and is currently sick, I think, with the Abbotsford Canucks. There's a lot of guys that should be playing games, and it's quite interesting how the management assets have been happening. But what's your guys' thoughts? Go ahead and leave a comment down below. But that's been it for this episode. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. I'll be back in another episode, so keep your eye for that. But I've been your host, Mark Fine. Take care.